Chapter 40. Let's get to the house. We will sort all of this out later. For now, the three of you are going to be locked in here. We'll have a guard watching the door day and night. You're going to be searched now, one at a time. If you don't like it, then you won't eat today. And let me remind you, it's still very early, Tasha said. Felicity grinned. Hey, sugar, if you want to see me naked, there's no need to go making threats. Tasha rolled her eyes as the woman took off her coat, tossing it at Charlie. He quickly distracted himself by searching through it, pulling a knife from one of the inside pockets as Felicity removed her boots and socks. Another tumbled out. The others were searched in the same manner. By the time the 4 wardens left their prisoners, they carried 7 knives and 1 unloaded pistol between them. She was shocked to find the doorway already packed with snow. It had accumulated to over a foot in an hour since the downpour had started. She quickly locked the door and tucked the keys into her pocket before starting the crossing to the house. It was only when she heard the nicker of horses behind her that she realized there was more to do before they could go in. Tasha turned back to the men. There's room in the barn for your mounts, plenty of hay and feed as well. If they take to it, we've got supplements in there as well. Hot damn, Bill grumbled. I see why they call this place a safe haven. What would you think if I told you we've got a heated wash house for your laundry needs and a wood-burning stove in the bathroom to heat up water? You telling me we can take an actual hot bath? Charlie asked. Is that a tear in your eye, old man? Bill asked. Bite me. Ma'am, we're awful grateful for your hospitality. It's because of you 3 that this homestead is safe. I will forever be indebted to you, Tasha told them. I'll take first watch out here, Richard said. I think they'll be okay for a while, but we should be doing regular checks. We'll bring them MREs. I don't want them to have anything from the kitchen. Once you've got your horses settled, come to the house so we can get acquainted. When we do start watches, it won't be out here freezing in the snow. You can see the whole garage and apartment from the wash house over there. And it's heated to boot. I suppose you could sit out there in the cold, though, if you really wanted, Tasha said with a grin. Can we just stay here forever, Bill? Charlie asked. Richard smiled at her, gently touching her arm before turning to follow the other 2 in the direction of their horses. She knew the others inside the house would be anxiously awaiting word on what was happening. As the snow continued to pour down, Tasha wondered how much more Mother Nature could dump on them before she would finally let up. With each inch of accumulation, she knew their situation grew more dire. When she reached the back patio, she found all 4 of them waiting for her at the door. Jesus, we were so worried, Amara stammered. What happened? Are they still out there? Are they gone? We wanted to get them off the property right away, but then we got hit with this damn snowfall and... Don't tell me they're still living free in the apartment, Harley growled. Tasha shot her a warning glance. No, they're locked in the garage, and we've got 3 people coming into the house here in a few minutes. Richard, Bill, and Charlie saved our lives, and they've got one hell of a story to tell. Right now, they're getting their horses settled. Until then, Harley, I've got something for you. Tasha pulled out the letter, quickly explaining who the men were and how they came by the letter. Harley and the others all gasped as she tore into it, tears falling from the woman's face as she stumbled backward and sat on the step. With her hand over her mouth, Harley read the letter to herself. When she reached the end, the woman was smiling for the first time in days, it seemed. They're okay, she whispered. Mom, Dad, my aunt and uncle, the cousins, all of them. I'm the last one who hasn't made it to the ranch, but they said they aren't worried. They know I'm with you, Tasha. Well, I'll be damned. A whole mail system, Elijah muttered. You're going to love these guys, Pops. This is going to make for tight quarters, though. Why don't we give them the apartment, just for now? Amara suggested. It probably needs a good cleaning after those 3, but Tara and I can get that taken care of quick. Are you guys sure you're okay double bunking for a few more days? I think that's a wonderful idea, Mare said. I don't think I was ready to leave my girls just yet. It's been nice having other women around. How long do you think it's going to snow? We'll need our muck boots just to get to the apartment. Tasha frowned as she looked outside the window. It was quickly approaching 2 feet of snow. It's coming down hard out there, Elijah muttered. Are we ready for this? As long as we don't get entirely snowed in, I think so. We'll start digging ourselves back out as soon as it lets up. So, we're just going to leave those 3 in the garage? Elijah asked. For now, we searched them, so I know they don't have anything. I'll send down MREs, and there is a bamboo for at least 2 days. They are not good people, Pops. When this is all over, the others will take those 3 away, and they won't be our problem anymore. I can't believe it's finally over. How long before we can leave? Tomorrow? Harley asked. Tasha cringed. Harley, this storm is a nasty one. There is no telling how long it's going to take before we can hit the road. For all we know, the trails could be blocked for days, weeks even. Harley glared at her. Are you kidding me? Everyone else in my family has managed to make it back but me. The one person who was with you. I am done. There was a knock on the patio door, and Tasha spun around. The others were there, which only made sense, considering how long the group had been standing there. Tasha quickly turned back to Harley, but she was already stomping out of the room and up the stairs to her bedroom. As much as she wanted to chase after the woman and make her understand it was a certain death sentence to leave in the poor weather, the others needed her attention. She quickly instructed Elijah to let them in while she had Mare start heating water for baths. Tamara darted to the kitchen to start making breakfast for the group. They made short work of doing introductions, with Tasha explaining to them that Harley would join them later. There was an ease with the newcomers that made everyone feel welcome. As they gathered in the living room where Theo was now sitting upright in a recliner, she made a fresh round of introductions. So they shot you just to get their foot in the door here? Charlie asked. Theo nodded. Hot damn, Bill muttered. I'm sure glad we've got those 3 off the streets. What about that other fellow, Harris? Richard said he was a local. Here with his old lady before the others came? Mare cleared her throat. I would be that old lady, but we aren't together now. Tasha got me out from under that prick's control, thank God. She saved my life. That seems to be a story we're hearing quite a bit, Bill said. His eyes moved to Tamara. She smiled at him and waved. Homeless girl from New York, she said. Tamara, Tasha scolded. Don't you ever introduce yourself like that again, do you hear me? You are not a homeless girl. You're brilliant, smart, and insanely gifted. Tamara blushed and smiled. How long do you think it'll be before you guys can ride out? Elijah asked. Not that we're rushing you, not in the least. I haven't seen snow like this in damn near a decade. Can't imagine you'll be able to do much moving on horse or otherwise for some time. Unfortunately, sir, you're right, Charlie said, especially with the 3 people on foot. It will be slow and cold. It looks like it's starting to let up, but I'd say we got a good 20 inches at least. That's not a timeline, Harley said. They all turned. She was standing at the base of the steps. Tasha hadn't seen her come into the room. Tell me how long before I can leave this prison, Harley hissed. Chapter 41. Harley, you are not being held prisoner here. These men went to great lengths to bring you that letter. The least you could do is thank them, Tasha scolded. She's all right, Charles said. I know how hard it is being away from family. Unfortunately, young lady, this snow is what we call impassable. If it's letting up now, and it looks to be, we should be able to plow out in about 7 days. It's just a matter of giving nature time to clear out for us. Before long, deer will start moving and clearing paths, and the sun will melt what little it can. There'll be all sorts of ways for nature to take its course. Jesus, I'm never going to get home, Harley whispered. Before Tasha could stop her, she was back up the steps again. She sighed and shook her head. She knew the girl needed space, but it broke her heart to know her friend was so upset. Amara patted her shoulder reassuringly. There was nothing they could do about the weather. "Come on now," Amara said. "Whoever is going to take the first bath, it should be nice and hot for you now. Whoever's second in line, Tar can take you and show you the wash house. We'll have some breakfast whipped up for you all in about an hour." As the group scattered and Elijah took over running things, Tasha took a few minutes to herself and stayed seated on the couch. She shook her head, covering her face and trying to rub away the fatigue, already starting to creep in. It was going to take a toll on their resources to have the extra people, there for at least a week, but she knew they'd be okay. It felt good knowing they were well stocked. Theo cleared his throat across from her. "You know, my sister is a lot like you," Theo said. "She's always helping people out and doing the right thing. Women like you, you're the ones who are going to rebuild this world. Harley'll come around. She's just scared." "Thanks, Theo. I just wish there was something I could do to help her," Tasha muttered. "Time'll heal her wounds. She's a strong girl, and you've been a good role model for both of them. It doesn't take a genius to see that. There are things out there she's just not going to believe until she sees them herself." "So are you suggesting I take her out there?" He shrugged. "Sometimes the best lessons are the ones that come the hard way. I don't think you should drop her off in the middle of the woods, but maybe take her hiking. Show her just how rough the terrain is." Tasha frowned and shook her head. It was an extreme measure she wasn't ready to take yet. Harley would bounce back by the following day. There was no way around it. She could be as upset as she wanted, but there was still work that needed to be done on the homestead. Tasha couldn't slack off just because Harley was throwing another tantrum. "Well, thank you for the advice, and I'll take it under consideration," Tasha said. "I suppose I should go check on the others." "You're doing a good job, Tasha," Theo said. "Everyone around here sings your praises. Don't forget to give yourself a break every now and then, though." She snorted. "Right, break. I'm lucky if I get 4 hours of uninterrupted sleep. I don't think I'll be penciling in any vacation time soon." He chuckled as she rose and headed into the kitchen, where Richard was helping Tamara fry bacon over the formerly gas stove. It only worked because of Elijah's handy skills. If the power ever did come back on, the stove would be useless. They'd gutted the oven to make room for metal sheeting and wood burning inside of it. While the stove in the greenhouse was perfect for the small family, it wouldn't do for their constantly growing numbers. The small cabin had been roomy for 2 people, built for a total of 4, but was bursting at the seams with their current numbers. Tasha quickly ducked into the closed-off patio and sat in one of the 2 empty chairs. I was starting to feel like she'd never have a second alone to process her thoughts. With everything that had happened, she needed to take account of their stock. The extra hands would make for quick work, though. While the ground was frozen, they could use the snowfall to their advantage. It had come with enough sudden ferocity that animals would be easy to track and still fat from the previous season. They could do a good deal in the next 7 days with the sun's reflection and enough canning. There were a half-dozen projects they could tackle thanks to the snow. With the leftover sheet metal, they could forge a few sleds and pick up twice the hay in half the time from Jeremiah, assuming he'd want to make another trade. That would secure enough for the additional horses over the next week and their animals for the winter. She'd been hoping for another 2 weeks' worth of grass for the livestock, but now that was gone. The others were doing a fine job of getting settled. It was a good time to set out for Jeremiah's and negotiate the trade. She stood up just as the door opened, and Richard stepped onto the patio. Tasha smiled at him. "You were just the man I was coming to find. Listen, I need to get over to Jeremiah's and see about getting more hay this week. And you want to know if I'll guard the fort?" he said. Tasha nodded. "You know, most men would assume I wanted them to come with me, or they would bicker with me about going alone. He shrugged. I'm not most men. Plus, I know who you are. You can handle yourself just fine. Listen, I know both the guys out there have snowshoes. You'll be able to go 10 times faster by walking on top of the snow and not trying to climb through it. They're on the saddlebags. I'll let them know you're borrowing a set. Thanks, that's going to be a lifesaver. Listen, Elijah is going to be pissed that I'm heading out there. Would you mind not telling him I'm gone until, after you've gone? Richard offered. He chuckled. You've got it. She quickly started to bundle up. Just as she reached for the door, a question came to her. So, won't Mary Beth be worried about you? Tasha asked. He cringed, his cheeks blushing red enough to make her regret asking. Oh, that didn't work out. Turns out we wanted different things, even in this strange new world we're living in. The people of this state, this nation, they need help. That's why I was on the road when you found me outside town. I was about to set off. I'm sure glad you did, too. I don't know that I'd have crossed paths with the others. Tasha swallowed. So, you're leaving? He shrugged. I don't know now. Maybe it's just getting out of the city, away from everything and everyone, but I suddenly don't feel like running quite so far away. She smiled. I better get going if I'm going to get to the Amish farm and back before dark. Sure you don't want company? He asked with a playful smile. Tasha nodded. Hold down the fort, cowboy. I'll see you soon. Hold on 1 second, Richard said. He pulled out a beautifully sheathed hunting knife. Take this with you. It's always brought me good luck. Maybe it'll be a good luck charm in your negotiations. Thanks, she said, looping it onto her belt. Really, for this and everything else, we wouldn't be standing if it weren't for you. I highly doubt that. You're a fighter, one hell of a leader, Tasha. These people are lucky to have you. She smiled at him one last time before pushing her way out the door and into the freezing air. Thank God the men had snow boots in the barn. 10 steps into her trek and she could feel the weight of the snow burning her muscles. It was going to be a long afternoon. Chapter 42. Despite the snow having stopped hours ago, the trek to Jeremiah's home was not an easy one. While the snowshoes helped, they were still massive snowbanks all along the road. Sometimes the snowshoes helped, but in others they hindered her ability to move through the thicket. She stayed on the road for the most part. It wasn't until Tasha reached a stretch of forest that would shave an hour off of her trip that she decided to lose the snowshoes and hike the remaining quarter-mile through feet of snow in the woods. The situation wasn't ideal, but it was still better than being trapped in the house with Harley hating her every decision. The slow hike consumed all of her attention as she navigated around protruding branches and tried to keep solid footing. It was a welcome distraction from the problems that awaited her at the farm. Hopefully, if nothing else, Jeremiah would let her warm herself in the house before sending her back on her way. As the Amish home came into view, she let out a sigh of relief. Even through her waterproof hunting gear, designed for the terribly harsh winters, she could feel the cold starting to settle in her bones, despite still being dry. Tasha put the snowshoes back on as she climbed her way out of the forest in the direction of the house. Before long, a handful of children were out plowing the driveway, both with horses and blades and shovels. When they saw her, they all waved. One little girl, bundled well, darted to the house to tell her parents about the incoming visitor. When she reached the house, she was frozen and exhausted. The trek had knocked the wind out of her. But Jeremiah's wife was ready as soon as she walked through the door. Her soaking wet layers were quickly whisked away to dry. She was ushered into the kitchen, where a cup of hot black coffee was set in front of her, along with an assortment of steaming breakfast buns. Jeremiah and his wife both sat with her. Tell me, Greta said, how is Elijah holding up with all this? Jeremiah mentioned you'd brought some guests as well. Yes, ma'am. And it seems our numbers have expanded again, at least until this snow clears. Well, let me tell you, those fish Jeremiah and the children brought back from the farm were a hit at our Sunday gathering. I've got women all over asking where I procured such finely kept animals. Thank you, Greta. Elijah has done a fine job keeping the pond well irrigated and fed when needed. We've got some more to spare if Jeremiah is looking to strike another deal. You know, I was just telling Greta that I'd be meandering over to your place soon enough to make another bargain. You've got something that's in short supply around here. I admit we hadn't quite prepared for winter hardships to come so soon. Our wood, what we've got cut, will take a week yet to dry, and the children tell me we are down to our last supply of dry. I can attest to the drying speed of bamboo. Kept in a warm room and quartered lengthwise, I've got enough out there that even if I didn't need a trade, I'd let you pick freely to keep those adorable kids warm, Tasha said. He smiled in gratitude. You mentioned a few more mouths to feed. Should I presume your trip here means you'll be hunting for more hay? Yeah, I thought I'd take advantage of the fresh snowfall and see if you'd transport via sled. You're a bright woman, Tasha Devers. I'd have come to that thought myself with Greta's help, soon enough. I've got no problems recognizing intelligence when I see it. The hay is light, as is the bamboo. I can bring you and 2 loads of hay back, and the lads and I will harvest enough to get the house through a few days. Jeremiah, before this disaster struck our nation, bamboo was an invasive species, and now it has the ability to grow even more unhindered. Come and take what you need. It'll be replenished in weeks. He smiled and nodded. Thank you, Tasha. Now you stay here and warm yourself with Greta. The kids and I will ready the horses. Your clothes should be dry and warm just as we finish loading the hay. You look like you could use a break. She chuckled. Thank you, Jeremiah. I think after this is all over, I'll be moving somewhere very warm to live out my days. He patted her on the back as he rose and headed for the door. After he'd bundled himself against the cold, Jeremiah set out to round up kids to help with their mission. Tasha barely knew Greta. Mostly they'd met in passing while Elijah and Jeremiah spoke on most occasions. It was awkward for her to be doing nothing when there was still so much to be done, but she knew going out to help Jeremiah would be seen as disrespectful to Greta. Smiling at the woman, she cleared her throat and desperately searched for something they could talk about as they waited. You know, when Jeremiah said you were back in town, I was just tickled pink. Elijah has always been such a proud man. Having you there to help him definitely takes a weight off my conscience. I understand you came from New York on foot. That's some feat. Tasha smiled. We did. It was an interesting trek, to be sure. I don't think I would advise traveling that way to the others unless it's a larger party. 3 women, though. We were very careful in our approach. Oh, heavens, I can imagine, she stammered. You know, you're such an inspiration to the young women in this area. Even my daughters have read your book. It must feel good knowing you've saved so many lives during this trying time for your people. Tasha blushed. I don't know about all that, but if it helped even one person, it was worth the headache that writing it brought. I never anticipated this EMP disaster actually happening so soon. I don't think people were nearly as prepared as they could have been. Tell me something, if it's not too forward. My cousin, Anna Marie, lives in Newark. Do you think they're safe there? She swallowed, her eyes darting to her winter gear drying next to the fireplace. Tasha didn't want to scare the poor woman, but the quiet suburb of Newark was only a handful of miles from downtown New York City. While they would have had a little more chance of survival by hunkering down and keeping quiet, Tasha wasn't hopeful. She didn't want to be the one to tell Greta, not with the hope she saw in the woman's eyes. You know, we left the city so quickly, I have no idea how the outlying areas looked. My townhouse was downtown. We headed right for the state line, and it was well after dark when we did. Greta folded her hands in her lap and looked down. nodding in understanding. The underlying words, what didn't need to be said, was enough without the added burden of telling Greta the truth of the matter. Her cousin's odds were not great, no matter where she was, if it was close to a major metropolis. Tasha couldn't leave the woman without hope, though. It was all they had left. "Is your cousin's family Amish as well?" Tasha asked. Greta nodded. She was only staying in the city for a few more months on her Rumspringa before she planned on coming back home. I hope she's okay. The family hosting her promised to take care of her when she was sent. There are groups of people all over, helping those who can't take care of themselves. Yes, I've come across some people on my journeys who were less than civil, but there's also so much good in the world still. Would you like to pray with me for her?" Greta's eyes lit up as she nodded again. Tasha smiled at her and took the woman's hands in hers as they started. She heard the door open behind them, but didn't look up, nor did she open her eyes when she heard Jeremiah sit with them and join in the tender moment of camaraderie. It didn't matter what chaos the world threw at them. Tasha knew it was the little things that would keep them clinging to their humanity. No matter what happened, she would never lose faith in the power of positive mindset. Together, they could overcome anything the world tossed in their direction. Chapter 43. The trek back to the farm took a third of the time with the horses. They pranced through the snow with little effort, though they were well prepared for the cold with leg wraps, extending up their limbs. When the homestead came into view, Tasha felt relief at once, knowing it was safe. She saw Elijah and Harley emerge on the now shoveled front porch. It looked like her godfather had managed to pull Harley out of her slump. Tasha made a mental note to ask the old man how he'd managed to accomplish the feat for future reference. When Tamara emerged from the patio door along with Richards donning their heavy gear, she knew they'd been waiting for her arrival. Climbing down from the sled, Tasha jogged over to the pair standing off the patio first. She made short work of the conversation with Richard, quickly letting him know what needed to be done and the trade she'd made. Tasha knew Jeremiah and his people would be in good hands as she headed back around to the front porch to talk with Elijah. "We were starting to get worried about you," Elijah said. "I see you got what you were after, though. I take it you made a good trade?" "If you can call it that, I'd say we owe Jeremiah a little something extra, but he'd claim the opposite is the same. They're out of dry wood for the house, so..." "Hell, he's welcome to as much bamboo as he can carry. I hope you didn't..." "I told him to take just as much as he could possibly need, and we threw some fresh fish in there, too. Would you mind asking Mare to put together a basket for Greta with some? With all those kids there in that house, I imagine they'll run out of teas for sore throats and colds real quick." "I'll tell her," Harley muttered. Tasha cringed, wondering if she should call after Harley instead and ask her to stay outside with them. She hated how angry the woman still seemed toward her. Time, it seemed, had eased her tensions with everyone but Tasha. The door was being shut before she could get the words out, though, and she released an exhausted sigh as she shook her head. It was starting to feel like they'd never be close again. "Great," Tasha muttered. "I see her mood hasn't changed any." "Give it time. She just needs someone to blame right now. She'll realize it's not your fault that it snowed soon enough." "Do you need a hand with getting the hay unloaded?" Elijah asked. "No, I think between his brood and ours, we've got more help than we can use." "How's everything else here going?" Tasha asked. "Good. Both the fellas got to wash up. They made sure the trio in the garage were fed too. I know there was a little scuffle, but it was put to rest pretty quickly. Amara seems to be on cloud 9 now that she's free from Harris." "Well, we aren't free from any of them just yet. Did one of them try to make a break for it?" "Which one?" Tasha asked. Elijah shrugged. "You'd have to ask Richard. I just got the basics of it when he was telling the others. He's a good man, you know, and single. She groaned. Come on, Pops. If I wasn't going to let you play matchmaker before the apocalypse, I'm not going to do it now either. Let's just make it through the winter alive and not worry about my love life until the spring. How does that sound? Like you're going to push it off until spring, then summer, and before you know it, you'll be my age and still single. All I'm saying is you deserve a nice fella like Richard to help you tend to this place. I've already got one of those. You, Pops, she joked. He chuckled. Nice try, but you know what I mean. I worry about you taking on too much. Tasha didn't know what to tell her godfather that would put his mind at ease. Even thinking about love was the farthest thing from her mind, not with everything that still needed to be done. She knew Elijah came from a good place, but it still bothered her that he was worrying about the situation at all. She hated that he stressed himself out over things he couldn't control. Tasha had to change the topic, and fast. Otherwise, he'd be planning her wedding before the end of the day. Pops, now's not the time, but thank you for thinking of me. How's our friend, Theo, holding up? I'd like to see that wound healing faster, but it's still early. No signs of infection, but we aren't out of the woods yet. Tell you what, the boy is a worker. He's got Mare, Tamara, anyone who'll listen bringing him little chores he can help with. Is that good for him? Shouldn't he be resting? Elijah chuckled. Oh, he won't hear of it. Says that our charity is done enough and he wants to be helping. As long as it's nothing that'll be making him stand or walk around, I don't see the harm in it. Man needs to feel needed. Remember that, darling. She rolled her eyes. Let it go, Pops. I'll find myself a nice guy when the world isn't ending. Hell, at this point, that might be what does it, Elijah joked. Come on, old man. Go inside before you catch a cold. We can't have you getting sick on us. I'm going to check on Jeremiah and his group before I come in and warm myself for a spell. Be sure to invite... Pops, you raised me right. You know I'm going to tell Jeremiah and his brood to stop in before heading back out. Elijah grinned at her and nodded as she headed back down the steps in the direction of the barn. As she walked, she thought about what her godfather had said as the barn came into view. It was impossible not to watch Richard as he gave orders and tossed hay from the sleds to the top of the loft. There was no denying he was an attractive man. She quickly shook her head and quickened her pace. She didn't have time for daydreaming and certainly no time for love. Chapter 44. I know you're pissed, okay? What do you want me to do, Harley? Tasha snapped. It was the same conversation, but on a new day. She knew her friend was desperate to leave, but she had no control over the weather. It seemed impossible to reason with Harley as the days passed. With no snow trucks out clearing the roadways, there was no way they'd make it to her aunt's homestead for a while. I'm starting to think you just want to hold me prisoner here until the spring. Oh, please, stop being so dramatic. Just because I don't want the both of us to freeze to death in the wilderness doesn't mean I'm holding you prisoner. Listen to yourself. You sound insane. No sooner were the words out of her mouth than Tasha regretted them. Her friend got a wounded look in her eyes and turned away from her to race out of the bedroom and down the steps. Tasha groaned. Son of a... Running down the steps after Harley, she stopped when the girl burst through the back door and down the driveway. She knew she was going to Mare to tell her what a cruel person Tasha was being. Tasha sighed and leaned against the frame, wondering if she should go after her or not. Let her go, Elijah said. Tasha jumped and turned around. He had her shotgun in his hands, along with her hunting gear. It sure sounded like she needed to cool off for a while. This is hard for her. She knows you only mean to do what's best for her. I know. I just hate that she's so mad. I lost my temper with her. With good reason, too. You've been burning the candle at both ends, sweetheart. Everyone here's been saying how stressed you look. Is that why you've got the gun? You've come to put me out of my misery? He chuckled. No, nothing like that. Mare and Bill saw a good-sized deer about half a mile behind the pond yesterday morning. I thought maybe you could use some time alone. When was the last time you had that? She thought for a moment. Shit, when I rode out to get Richard to get those deadbeats off our land. When was the last time you enjoyed yourself, then? He asked. Tasha sighed. All right, old man, I get what you're saying, but Harley needs me. What she needs is a leader with their heads screwed on tight. And I can see yours is just about ready to pop off. You need a little rest and relaxation. She chuckled. Are you ordering me around now? Of course not. I know better. Listen, I told the group we should take you out back and shoot you like you suggested. They all thought we should let you go hunting instead. So don't blame me. I was ready to make you a martyr. Tasha burst into laughter. Well, it's good to know you're looking out for my best interests there, Pops. I suppose I could use a little time away. Maybe just scouting for a while. I thought I saw a few geese on the north end of the pond, too. See now, there you go, Elijah said, handing her the gear. You're one stubborn old man, you know, she asked. Of course I do. Who do you think I learned it from? I wasn't like this back before you came along. Hell, I used to be as easy as they came. Ha, I don't believe that for a second, she said. But thank you all the same for this, Elijah. Tasha had to admit the amount of stress was taking its toll on her. She could see the fear growing within Harley, as it was written with every blank stare the girl cast. In an effort to release that anxiety, and with the purpose of trying to feed the group, Tasha grabbed her shotgun and hunting knife and headed into the woods. Immediately, she could feel a sense of calmness and resolution. As she made her way farther from the cabin, Tasha could see a group of deer tracks that led her toward the west of the homestead. She didn't hesitate to follow them slowly, trying not to step on branches and dried leaves. It took several minutes to work through the brush and thick, overgrown area of the woods. The dense amount of trees made it difficult to follow the tracks, and it wasn't long before she lost them in the tall grass and bushes. Not one to give up too easily, Tasha followed a small path, nearly covered with small growing trees. The cool air was beginning to burn her lungs, but she could feel she was getting closer to her prey. She moved with the mindset of the deer she was hunting, knowing they needed to be close to a water source. Tasha tried to position herself on the side of the clearing with the most trees. She knew the deer would turn their back to the woods in order to protect themselves better. Just as she found a good position to set up, there was movement to her right side. Her reaction was to drop low so as to not be seen. Suddenly, there was a large doe that popped her head up from the long grass. While the weather had gotten colder, it hadn't quite been enough for the foliage to freeze and fall flat. In an instant, Tasha's heart began to pound. The excitement she felt when she was young began to flow through her again. There was a moment she thought that the beautiful creature was going to spot her. But after smelling the air and glancing around, the doe nestled herself back into her bed. Tasha knew the time had come to make her move. Tasha inched her way to the edge of the clearing and found a small place she could use to hide. There was a large oak tree that would keep her from being seen and still give her a clear line of sight on the deer. Slowly, she raised her shotgun and leveled her sight on the doe. She clicked her tongue and waited for her to lift her head. Without missing a beat, her prey rose from the grass and stood broadside, leaving Tasha with an easy shot. She released the safety and made sure her sight wasn't impeded. Taking in a breath, she gently squeezed the trigger. The loud crack echoed through the woods, and the smell of gunpowder filled the air. Tasha watched her target jump in the air but it was too late. Tasha didn't miss, and within a few feet from where she was shot, the doe fell to the ground. For the first time in minutes, it felt like she could breathe again. She didn't waste a moment as she approached the dead carcass of her kill. Though Tasha wanted to enjoy the victory of the hunt, she knew there wouldn't be time for that. There was no telling who else could be in the area who might have heard the gunfire, and she knew it wasn't about the hunt anymore. Hunting had become less of a sport and more of a necessity. Putting her hand on the butt of her knife, she pulled it from its sheath. She made quick work of cutting a coring ring and removing the colon. As the blade of her knife sliced through the deer's stomach, the warmth of the animal's blood met her hands. Most people wouldn't be able to handle the important part of gutting a deer, but it was something she had done several times. After cutting the windpipe, she removed the entrails, including the stomach and bladder. Completing the process, Tasha turned the deer onto her stomach to allow the rest of the pooled blood to drain. The few minutes she needed to wait allowed her to take a deep breath and relax. The animal would provide food for them to eat for several days, and the feeling of a successful hunt delighted her. She sucked in the cool air and looked out over the woods. It had been years since she'd been on a hunt, but everything she had been taught came to the forefront of her mind as soon as she needed it. Tasha smiled and lifted the deer up onto her shoulders. The weight was heavier than she had imagined, but once she was able to get to her feet, she started the walk back to the homestead. There were still things that needed to be worked out and taken care of, but for a time, she was happy to be out in the wilderness. Chapter 45. "You mean you're going to let me go?" Harley stammered. Tasha nodded. "You want to go, so I'll take you as far as the end of the road to where you'll have to start on the trail. I sure wish you'd wait for me to take you in a week or so, but I get it." Harley eyed her up and down, seemingly trying to decipher if Tasha was lying to her or not, though Tasha had never given the woman a reason to doubt her. On the hunt, the day before, she'd decided to stop fighting with Harley and give her what she wanted. While she didn't think the young woman would take the path alone, she had to be given the chance. Tasha was tired of feeling like the girl's warden. She had to know she was there of her own free will. The only thing standing in the way of her and her family reuniting was the force of Mother Nature. As far as Tasha was concerned, nature was not to be trifled with. "Thank you, then. I'm happy you're finally seeing some reason. How soon can we leave?" Harley asked. "I've got Elijah and Theo checking over your supplies now. Then we can go. I thought it might be easier if we left while Tamara was out hunting with Richard and Bill. I'll be back in time to make sure the inmates get their dinner, and you can get a few miles under your belt before you have to make camp for the night," Tasha said. "Yeah," Harley muttered. "I'll miss telling Tamara bye, but I guess that's for the best. She probably won't handle it well." "Don't you worry. I'll let her know you said goodbye. They should be just about finished with the pack. If you want to get the rest of your stuff together, we can head out. I'll carry one bag until we part ways, and I'll send you with the map as well. I think Elijah was digging out his old compass for you, too." "Wow, thanks. It sounds like you got everything taken care of. Just give me 10 minutes, then I'll be down." Tasha nodded and headed out of the room, jogging down the steps to where Elijah was sitting in the living room with Theo and Mare. Charlie was keeping watch from the warmth of the wash house, but she knew she'd get to check in with him soon. When they heard her coming, the trio looked up from the whispered conversation they'd been having. She groaned and rolled her eyes, knowing what was coming. "Would you just listen to us for a darn minute?" Elijah growled. "This scheme of yours to get in her head—" "It's not a scheme, Pops. She wants to leave. I'm giving her what she wants." "What happens if she gets it in her head to keep going?" Elijah asked. "Elijah, it's almost 5 below freezing. We haven't had a cold snap like this in 20 years. I love Harley as much as the rest of you, but if she's going to stay here, she needs to do so of her own accord." Amara sighed. "She's such a stubborn young woman, though." "She's smarter than she is stubborn," Tasha countered. "So if none of you have anything useful to add, I'd appreciate it if we could drop the conversation now." "Are you sure giving her a loaded gun is a good idea? I mean, if you think she's going to back out, what's the point in the farce?" Theo asked. "Because there's always the chance she won't. That's why I had you pack a real bag for her as well. I won't force her to stay here." "This is a mistake." Harley came barreling down the steps before Elijah could finish his sentence. The look of joy on her face made Tasha's resolve falter, but she knew there was no other way. As much as she wanted to tell Harley the trip was off, she knew she couldn't. Instead, she smiled at her young friend as she went around the room and hugged the others, telling them goodbye and meaning every word. Elijah was nearly in tears by the time the two set out for the road after gearing up. Tasha quickly led the way to the main gate and pushed it open. Beyond the driveway, they'd started to clear away the feet of snow, but it was still towering in some spots. She could hear Harley getting winded when they made it roughly 50 feet from the entrance to the farm. Tasha continued to push her forward, keeping the pace brisk enough so she could make it back to the homestead before the sun started to fall later in the day. As her home started to disappear behind them, Tasha felt herself questioning her decision to let Harley leave. Granted, she hoped the young woman would turn back with her, but she wasn't able to force her, not anymore. It wasn't her decision to control someone else. They moved silently for over 2 hours. She knew Harley was exhausted, and her pride alone kept her moving without complaint. When the end of the road, only a mere 2 miles from the homestead, came into view, Tasha's heart started to race. They had made it farther than she'd expected. Beyond a snowbank that towered over their heads would be Tasha's final stop. She wasn't going to go farther, no matter how much she wanted to stay with Harley. As they started to climb over the embankment, she heard Harley curse under her breath behind her. Tasha let her slip back down to the road. "Everything okay?" Tasha asked. Harley glared at her breathlessly. "Is the entire trip gonna be like this?" Tasha shrugged. "I would imagine the farther you go, the worse it'll get. From what we've heard, the states farther inland got hit with more snow than we did. Consider this the kiddie pool." "Tasha, I told you it was going to be like this, Harley. This is what you're going up against. This isn't me. This isn't Elijah. This is the brutality of Mother Nature. This is her doing. If you're going to keep going, though, I suggest you take this." Tasha pulled the gun out of the pocket of her winter jacket. Harley's eyes grew wide with fear as they darted to Tasha. She shook the gun in her hand for Harley to take. The woman did, her trembling hands holding the weapon without experience. Do you really think I need a gun?" Harley stammered. "You remember the men in Davenport, right? And the nice little old couple from your hometown? People are going to try to take what you've got in that pack. You'll need to protect yourself. Not to mention any bears or coyotes in the woods. You've got 8 rounds in there. That'll keep you safe, at least for a minute." Harley said nothing, still examining the weight of the weapon in her hands. Tasha saw her resolve faltering, and she had to keep pushing and pray the girl saw reason. She didn't want to lose her friend to the harsh wilderness. "Listen, just stay to the woods, use the compass, and make sure you don't get frostbite. Obviously, with the snow, there's no dry wood anywhere. You'll need to really dig to find anything that'll burn through the night. Don't make the fire too big. You don't want to attract attention to yourself. And whatever you do, don't—" "Stop!" Harley gasped. This is wrong. Tasha, you were right. I'm so sorry. This trek was a waste of time.
I don't want to go, not now, not by myself. I've wasted your time and...
Tasha didn't wait for the young woman to finish as she dove into the girl's arms. Harley cried softly, apologizing over and over again as she hugged Tasha back. She knew her friend felt terrible, but it didn't matter. All she cared about was that Harley was coming back with her.
I've wasted so much of your time,
Harley stammered as they parted. Tasha smiled and shook her head. You haven't wasted anything. Consider this a good life lesson. I'm proud of you for making the right decision. Harley extended her hand, offering the gun to Tasha, but she shook her head and pushed it away. You're going to learn to protect yourself, Harley. That's yours now. Just because you aren't leaving today doesn't mean you won't eventually. We'll start practicing every day together, okay? I know you can do this.
Really?
Tasha nodded. You're such a strong young woman. You've already made me so proud. And I know when the time is right for you to leave us, you'll be going with the knowledge to survive out there. Chapter 46. Something's wrong, Tasha growled. They were almost to the house's front porch when she saw the garage door ajar. Instantly, she grabbed Harley and tugged her below the windows of the front of the house. She could see a trail of blood, red stains against the stark white snow that led from the garage to the main house. She thought of Elijah and Mare. The others were out hunting. They weren't prepared for an attack.
What do we do?
Harley asked. Find those assholes, Tasha hissed. Harley gasped and pointed to a mound near the back door of the house as they crept around the side. Her stomach lurched, immediately recognizing it as a body. It was too late to shield Harley from the horrific scene in front of them, but there was relief in knowing the body belonged to Harris and not one of her own people. She nudged the body with her foot, seeing that he'd had the better part of his face blown away by what appeared to be a shotgun round. Harley was struggling to catch her breath behind Tasha. She knew the young woman was in the early stages of a panic attack, but there was no time to bring her back down as Tasha grabbed her arm and tugged her between the house and the trees that bordered it.
We've got to get in there,
Harley stammered.
We've got to make sure the others are okay. Oh, God, what if that monster got to her, got to Tamra? This is all my fault.
Be quiet, Tasha hissed. We don't have time right now for you to freak out. Harris's body was still warm. That means this didn't happen more than 20 minutes ago. Not with this much snow. We are still missing 2 bad guys, though. Whatever move we make needs to be done with caution. Harley nodded silently, next to her, as Tasha tried to put together a plan. Nothing else was out of place except for the body in the yard. Thinking of the lookout they'd positioned in the wash house, she quietly crept to the back door of the house. As soon as they were to the wash house, Tasha peered inside and saw Charlie slumped over in his chair. She felt like she was going to be sick as she held up a hand for Harley to stay back. Grabbing the handle, she stepped inside and quickly saw the man's chest moving up and down. At least he was alive. Circling around the front, Tasha saw a deep stab wound in the man's chest. The blade still lodged in his ribs. Was probably the only thing keeping him alive. They couldn't pull it out or risk moving him. His eyes opened as she whispered his name. They got the others inside the house, he croaked. I tried to stop them, but the little bitch jumped out of nowhere and nicked me right in the chest there. They got my shotgun, but I think I clipped one before they thought about pulling the blade. But no, leave it until Elijah can get here. Harley is going to stay with you, okay? I'm going to help the others. You did get one too, Charlie. You killed him dead.
Tasha, I can help you,
Harley said from the doorway. She shook her head. No, right now Charlie needs you. Harley looked like she wanted to argue, but to the woman's credit, she simply nodded instead. Tasha knew she still had the gun tucked into her coat. She quickly went over the safety features on the weapon before embracing her friend and slipping back out the door. She'd left her pack in the wash house with the others, pulling out her blade and praying the intruders hadn't gotten to the gun safe yet. She moved silently, only the footprints in the snow giving away her location. But she knew the man and woman inside the house wouldn't notice. Even from where she was perched beneath the kitchen windows, she could hear Felicity's shrill voice, demanding to know where they kept the good booze. Connor was making loud and lewd comments to Amara and Tamra. When the man threatened to take the teen girl upstairs, Tasha knew she had to act. Her heart broke when she heard her feisty young friend fighting against the man. She wasn't going to let him hurt her, but she needed him to be in the stairwell before bursting through the door. She'd only need a few seconds to subdue the woman. It didn't look like they had gained access to the gun safe yet. The shotgun Elijah must have used on Harris was sitting against the counter. Tasha regretted not taking the gun from Harley when she had offered. With Felicity's back to her and Tamara's screams coming from the stairwell where the man was trying to drag her up the steps, Tasha quietly opened the back door. It was nearly silent as she did so, but the screws hitched seconds after her hand left the door, and Felicity spun around. The woman sneered at her and dove for the shotgun, but Tasha was faster, diving for Felicity and colliding with her just as the door slammed upstairs. She had to get to Tamra before the monster did anything. As the two women struggled on the floor, with Felicity trying to get to her weapon and Tasha to hers, chaos erupted around them. Elijah was there in an instant with Amara at his side, pulling the screaming woman away from Tasha as she grabbed the shotgun and raced up the steps in the direction of Tamra's screams. She didn't wait, bursting through the door and knocking Connor off his feet, but he quickly recovered. He was twice her size and angry. When the man pulled one of her butcher knives out of his belt, she knew it would be a fight for her life. Her eyes darted to Tamra at the same instant his did. He was on the bed, grabbing her by the hair before Tasha could act. He had the blade pressed against her throat, with such force that Tasha was sure he'd cut it unintentionally. "What are you gonna do now, bitch?" he growled at her. In earnest, she had no idea. He had his back to the window, and she had hers to the door. She wasn't going to let him get past her, at least not with Tamra as his prisoner. "Listen, Connor, Harris is dead, and Felicity is back in custody downstairs. You can lay down that knife right now, and we can make a deal," Tasha said. He snorted. "You should just stop talking. As far as I can tell, I'm the one who's in control of things around here. Now get the gun safe open and tell those shits downstairs to let my lady go. Got it?" Tasha shook her head. "I'm afraid I can't do that, Connor. I'm not going to give you another loaded weapon. There is no way out of this that doesn't end with you being locked back up. Screw you. I want a horse and enough supplies to last a month on it. Otherwise, I'll cut her pretty little throat right now." Tasha smiled at him. "So let me get this straight. You want me to get a loaded gun from the safe? Then you really think I'm not going to shoot you?" "I told you I'd cut her," he growled. She shrugged. "Gun's a lot faster than your knife." His eyes narrowed as he shoved Tamra away from him and back onto the bed. He jerked his knife in Tasha's direction, indicating she should join the girl. As she stepped away from the gun safe, she let out a sigh of relief. The safe, located directly next to the bedroom window, was right where she wanted him to be. She'd seen the blip of black against the white snow outside and knew what was happening. It seemed Bill had found Harley and Charlie in the wash house and was now ready to make his move. "Cover your ears," Tasha whispered to Tamra. The girl gave her a confused look, and before she could follow her friend's orders, A shot rang out across the mountains. No sooner had Connor stepped up to the safe than his lifeless body was falling to the floor. A waterfall of shattered glass collapsing around him as Tamara screamed out. Tasha held the girl in her arms as the others flooded the room. As she stroked her friend's head and promised her it would all be okay, Tasha knew, for the first time since their arrival at the homestead, it was the truth. They had overcome yet another threat to their safety, and for the rest of her life, Tasha vowed to always keep Tamara and the others safe. Epilogue. It had been 3 weeks since Richard's men had gone out with Harley to help her find her parents. Tasha had started to wait on the porch every morning. Every morning, she hoped to see one of them coming back up the long driveway. As she looked over the property, a sense of calmness washed over her. Since the beginning of the end of the world, she hadn't been able to relax for more than just a short amount of time. All of that had changed over the last few weeks. While everything else had been going according to plans, there was a feeling of worry she couldn't shake. There wasn't a lack of trust for Richard's men, but the world wasn't as safe as it had been before the EMP, and Tasha knew it. There wasn't a moment that went by that she didn't think of how the world used to be and what had become of it. Shaking the thoughts from her mind, she glanced down the driveway one last time before she planned on getting the day started. To her delight, a man was coming up the dirt path on a horse. She knew it was one of Richard's men, Charlie. She rushed down the path to the gate, excited for any news of her friend, Harley. Before Tasha could talk to the man, she could see the smile across his face, and it answered all her prayers. "It's so good to see you, Charlie. I take it that you were able to find Harley's parents?" Tasha asked, smiling from ear to ear. "Yes, ma'am," he replied. "It took a little longer than we expected to get there, but everyone was doing good and we're happy to see her still alive." "Didn't run into any trouble, did you?" "Not at all, ma'am. Turns out she's got a real level head on her shoulders. Sweet girl." "Oh, thank God. I was so worried about you three." "We were able to find her folks at her aunt's farm. It looked like they had everything they would need to make it through this whole mess." Tasha couldn't believe what the man was telling her. Deep down in her heart, she knew everything was going to be okay. But hearing it out loud made it real. Things were definitely starting to look brighter. There was a happiness in the air that hadn't been felt since the start of everything. And there wasn't anything more exciting than knowing her friend had made it home. Though she was excited by the good news, her thoughts trickled to the other man Richard had sent with them. Though she had seen something between Bill and Harley, Tasha wanted to know where the young man had gone. "I'm so happy you were able to get her home. What about Bill? I almost expected to see him come back with you." Charlie laughed. "That young buck? Nope. Those two fell in love on the way there. I figured they had something brewing, but I couldn't have dragged him away with a tank." "Well, good for them both," Tasha said. "I'm just happy to see you back and to hear some good news. It'll be a good thing for her to have her family back and a new love." "Yes, ma'am. I can definitely get behind that in this world we're in now." "Well, Charlie, you've earned yourself a good meal and a little bit of time to relax. Head up to the house, get warmed up, and have some breakfast. Thank you for getting her home." Charlie tipped his hat and smiled. Tasha smiled and nodded back to the house, directing him to get moving. She watched him head up to the house and couldn't help but think about how right he had been. The world had become an awful place since the EMP had destroyed the way of life they were used to. Going from one extreme to another, the group had been able to pull themselves together and overcome all kinds of obstacles. Now, 3 days before Christmas, they were getting the homestead into a position where it could be self-sustainable. The hope of a world of peace was nearly gone, but the news that Charlie had brought back with him, that there was a young love starting gave her hope she hadn't felt in quite some time. In the new world that seemed to place evil people at the top of the food chain, there was a glimmer of light that couldn't be extinguished. Tasha looked up at the clear blue sky and the slow-moving sunrise coming from the east. She grinned. The orange glow seemed brighter than it had in months, and she knew things were going to work out for the best. "So, I take it Charlie brought back good news," Richard said. Tasha turned and their eyes met. Yes, he did. They were able to get her to her aunt's farm, and her parents were both there. "That's wonderful. See, I told you there was still good in the world." "You sure did, Richard." "Well, I know it'll be nice to have Charlie and Bill back to help with the list of things we still need to get done around here." Bill stayed with Harley. Charlie said the pair of them fell in love on the trip there, and Bill decided to stay with her. Richard smiled. "Wow, you're just full of good news this morning." Tasha chuckled. "I thought you might have been upset that you lost a good worker." "Not in the slightest. I'm happy for the young man. Young love deserves its chance in the world, just as much as any other love." Though Tasha had seen the softer side of Richard from the start, he surprised her with how well he took the news. Over the last month, she had slowly started to fall for him. There was a time that she thought about going at life alone and taking control of her own destiny. But even in the world they were living in now, Harley had found the love of her life. Now, there was hope that maybe she had too. "What are you thinking about, Tasha?" "You know, I'm just thinking about what needs to be done around here still." Richard chuckled. "I don't think that's the only thing going on in that beautiful head of yours." Tasha blushed. "Maybe not, but I don't think you want to hear about all the girly things that run through my mind." "Even if you don't want to tell me what you're really thinking about, just know I'm here when you do, girly or not. You're an important part of the future of this place, and to me." "What do you mean?" "I'm just saying that I don't think Bill is the only one who's fallen for someone." "Do you really think there's hope for love in a life like this?" "Absolutely. There's nothing stopping it, no matter what life throws at us." Tasha smiled as Richard put his arms around her. She knew plenty still needed to be done, but it was a touching moment in her life, and she decided to soak it in. The world around them had gone to hell, but there they were, sharing a moment no one could ever take away from them. It was then that she knew the only thing that would hold them back was themselves. People's true colors come out in a moment of fear and destruction. The gnawing thought in the back of her mind that told her there would never be happiness in the world after what they had been through was starting to fade away. "I think you're right, Richard. No matter what we face, or what happens to us in this life, there will always be hope. Humanity is always going to rise to the occasion and prevail in the end." I couldn't have said it better myself. You know, I never thought I'd be standing here with a beautiful woman by my side, watching the most gorgeous sunrise I've ever seen. Yet here we are, Richard chuckled. "You know why it looks so stunning compared to all the others?" Richard smiled. "I do, actually." "You do?" "It's because I get to share it with the woman I love." "I love you too, Richard," Tasha said. Tasha grinned. She had never felt so peaceful until now. At that moment, she knew there wasn't anything that could stop them. If they stuck together, helped others, and tried to be the change they wanted to see, things would work out in the end. The world was going to be all right, and there was hope for a brighter tomorrow. Humanity would endure.